The air here, it breathes, not with the shallow gasp of a dying man, but with a deep, ancient pulse that thrums beneath the very stones. Can you feel it? This is not the dead quiet of an empty tomb, no. This is a living thing, heavy and charged, humming with centuries of unuttered truths. Every thread in these tapestries, every polished stone in this floor has absorbed the echoes of promises whispered and oaths broken, of ambitions that soared and hearts that shattered. It's an electric current, crackling, invisible, yet undeniably present. From this vantage, a mere shadow clinging to a carved pillar within the Sultan's chamber, I have watched. For 500 years, these walls have been a stage for the grandest illusions and the most brutal realities. And always, always, there were them, the eunuchs, silent, stripped of their manhood, yet holding the keys to the future of an entire dynasty. Their eyes, dark and unblinking, were the true chronicles of this empire, their minds archives of the forbidden. They saw what no one else dared to see, heard what no one else was meant to hear. A forbidden knowledge, locked behind a veil of unquestioning obedience and chilling fear. They witnessed the subtle shift in a woman's gaze, a queen's calculating smile, a glance that could ignite a war or extinguish a lineage. They saw the swift, elegant fall of a silk scarf, a gesture so delicate yet potent enough to sever a rival's bloodline, to unravel generations with a single, silent command. Or worse, to signal the silent drop of poison into a gilded cup, sealing a fate with chilling grace before the first sip touched the lips. Betrayal, here, was not a sword drawn in anger, but a whisper carried on the breeze, a fleeting shadow, a breath held too long. These men, rendered voiceless by decree, became the ultimate keepers of the darkest secrets. Their very silence was their power, their curse, their enduring legacy. They moved like ghosts among the living, bearing the crushing weight of 1,000 untold stories, each one a thread in the intricate, often blood-stained tapestry of power and deceit that was the game of queens. A game where beauty was a weapon and an heir a pawn. This is where it begins, where the curtain, woven from centuries of secrecy and unspoken tragedy, finally trembles. Are you ready to step into that forbidden space? To gaze upon the forbidden truths kept hidden for 500 years? To truly see what the eunuchs saw? Prepare yourselves, for the veil is about to part. Look closer. Beyond the shimmer of 1,000 oil lamps, past the haze of rosewater and incense that clings to the air like a lover's breath, this is the Sultan's harem. A golden cage, yes, but one woven with threads of unimaginable luxury. Every silk tapestry, each intricate pattern on the tiled walls, every glint of gold upon a jeweled collar, each conceals a secret. A whisper of a betrayal, a story of ambition, or perhaps of ruin. Here, the air is thick with the weight of expectation, the silent hum of 1,000 desires, and the constant, chilling presence of fear. It wraps around you, a silken shroud, even as laughter echoes from sun-drenched courtyards. For within these gilded walls, the true game of dynasty is played, not with swords on a battlefield, but with smiles and poison, with a gentle touch that could seal a fate or break a bloodline. And who, do you think, truly saw these dramas unfold? Not the men of the court, nor even the Sultan himself, blinded often by power or by passion. No, it was the eunuchs. Muted figures, stripped of their manhood, yet granted an intimacy no other man could possess within these walls. Their silence was their shield, their curse, and, often, their greatest weapon. They were the eyes and ears of a realm, yet denied the voice to articulate the truths they bore. They watched the queens, the sultanas, the favored concubines, as they danced on the edge of the abyss. They saw the longing in a mother's eyes for a son to secure her position, the cold calculation in a rival's smile. They knew the true cost of a dynasty, built not just on bloodline, but on whispered betrayals, on promises made in shadow, and on the silent, swift efficacy of poison. Their lives were a constant balancing act on the sharpest edge of a blade. Absolute loyalty was demanded, yet suspicion was their eternal companion. A single misstep, a flicker of understanding too clear in their eyes, a misplaced glance revealing an unspoken truth, any could mean oblivion. They were living walls, separating worlds, the absolute rule of the Sultan from the intricate, ruthless game of queens within the golden cage. Yet, they stood at the very heart of it all, silent, ever present. They were the keepers of forbidden silence, the unwitting chroniclers of 5 centuries of secrets. What secrets do you imagine those unblinking eyes held? What truth did they carry, unspoken, to their graves? Lean closer if you dare. Past these tapestries, beyond the gilded screen, the air itself hums with unspoken threats. Here, in this golden labyrinth, where light caught on polished marble and the scent of jasmine mingled with desperation, there was no room for the fragile distinctions of good and evil. There were only those who survived, and those who did not. This truth, cold and unyielding, was the very bedrock of the palace. They stood there, the eunuchs, silent sentinels, shadows among the shadows, their eyes seeing what no one else dared to acknowledge. 5 centuries of forbidden silence, a legacy etched into their very bones, into the stoic lines of their faces. They watched, impassive, as the women of the Sultan's court, sultanas, concubines, the formidable validae, wove their intricate webs. Each a queen in her own right, yes, but also a warrior, driven by a singular, unyielding purpose: to secure her power, to ensure the ascendancy of her offspring, and to fight with every breath for her very life. This was the game of queens, played not with dice or cards, but with destinies, where a misplaced word could be as fatal as a dagger. Observe, for a moment, the delicate dance. A silver tray, laden with sweet sherbet, offered with a smile. A hand, reaching out, fingers brushing the cool metal. A touch so fleeting, so innocent, yet the eunuchs knew. They saw the subtle tremor in the servant's hand, the almost imperceptible hesitation in the eyes of the attendant, the way the light caught a faint, unnatural sheen on the liquid surface. A final, sweet sip, taken in blissful ignorance. And then, silence. A silence that spread through the harem like a cold mist, proclaiming a victory or a defeat long before a single word was uttered. Such was the poison, subtle as a whisper, potent as a blade, capable of reshaping the very bloodline with a single, untraceable draft. Or consider a letter, perhaps, accidentally dropped in a secluded courtyard, seemingly forgotten. Its seal, once immaculate, now broken, revealing secrets meant for a sultan's ear alone. Not by clumsy fingers, no, but by a deliberate act of betrayal, a calculated gambit that could shift the course of a distant war, topple an unsuspecting vizier, or elevate a favored son to a position of perilous power. The eunuchs watched these dominoes fall, one by one, their gaze unwavering. They understood the true currency of this court was not gold, but information, wielded with a chilling precision, its echoes reverberating through the hidden passages of the palace. A broken seal, a whispered name, and a future unraveled. This was a chess match, you see, played on a board the size of an empire, beneath the glittering chandeliers. The pieces were flesh and blood, a favored concubine, a rebellious prince, a trusted general. And the stakes? The very continuance of the dynasty itself. Every glance, every gesture, every whispered confidence carried the immense weight of ages. They learned to read the tightening of a jaw, the flicker of triumph in a veiled eye, the sudden, forced composure that masked a venomous intent. These women, adorned in rich silk and precious jewels, were strategists, ruthlessly dissecting potential threats, calculating alliances, and orchestrating downfalls from the depths of their opulent chambers. And then there were the stains. A splash of wine, perhaps, on an embroidered cushion, or, far more tellingly, that single crimson blossom upon the pristine silk of a discarded gown. A stark, vivid contrast against the opulent fabric, a silent testament to a life extinguished, a victory claimed, a power secured through clandestine means. It spoke volumes, didn't it? More than any decree, any shouted confession in the torture chambers below. That blood on silk, so innocent in its accidental beauty, yet so profound in its implication, was the ultimate signature of this ruthless game. The eunuchs saw it, they cleaned it, and in their sacred, forbidden silence, under the ever-present shadow of the Sultan's will, they held the true, unvarnished history of this golden cage. A history whispered not through words, but through the chilling tableau of what remained. A testament to the sheer, brutal will to survive. From behind this pillar, where the dust of centuries settles like secrets, I tell you, silence is not the absence of sound. It is a presence. A heavy cloak woven from unspoken truths and withheld whispers. And those who truly mastered it, who moved within its folds as if born of the void itself, were the eunuchs. They glided through these gilded halls, shadows among shadows, their voices soft, their eyes often downcast. A seeming helplessness, a deliberate anonymity. Yet, observe closer. What did that downcast gaze truly conceal? Not servitude, but a vast, terrifying archive of knowledge. 1,000 tales of ambition, bloodline, and betrayal etched into the very air they breathed. Their proximity to power was absolute, their detachment a finely honed weapon. Think of it, a message delayed by an hour could change the course of a dynasty. A word, unspoken, could avert a coup or condemn a prince. Their unique position, outside the direct line of power, yet privy to every whisper, every illicit glance, every rustle of silk, made them the unseen arbiters. They were outside the game, yes, but they knew every rule, every player, every hidden move on this velvet chessboard. Their knowledge was their armor, a shield against the blades of courtly intrigue. And their curse, for it burdened them with choices no ordinary man could fathom. Consider the Sultan's goblet, glistening with wine, a faint shimmer perhaps at its surface, an almost imperceptible clouding. A eunuch approaches, his hand steady, his face impassive. Does he see it? The subtle trace of death shimmering in the golden liquid? His gaze lingers, then passes. He pours, and a life, or an empire's fate, is sealed not by action, but by the perfect, terrible absence of it, by the silence of his recognition. This was their terrifying strength, to choose not to act, to choose not to speak. Because even the shadow, my dear, tethered as it might seem to the light, possesses its own will. And sometimes, in the intricate dance of queens and viziers, a eunuch would misinterpret an order. He would overlook a vital document. He would fail to deliver a warning. Not by accident, you understand, but because even silence, when wielded with such mastery, casts its own long, formidable shadow. A shadow capable of deciding who lives, who dies, and whose dynasty shall rise or fall. These walls, they remember. 5 centuries they have stood, mute witnesses to a silence more profound than any decree. A silence born of an oath, enforced by a blade, yet, paradoxically, a source of unparalleled sight. This silence, a canvas upon which empires were silently shaped. For 500 years they watched. The eunuchs. Not mere servants, no. They were the unseen architects of power, their very disfigurement granting them access to realms forbidden to others. Their hands, though never on the scepter, quietly guided the unseen currents of the bloodline, ensuring its flow or damming it forever. They stood between queens and sultans, between life and oblivion, their enforced neutrality making them the ultimate arbiters of truth, or its most cunning manipulators. Their eyes, though often downcast, missed nothing. They saw the intricate, deadly dance of the game of queens, where a smile could hide a dagger, and a whispered promise could seal a fate. No flick of a mistress's hand, no tremor in a sultan's voice, no glint of poison in a chalice went unrecorded in their silent minds. They observed the betrayal disguised as loyalty, the desperate plea of a mother for her heir, the quiet, dignified disposal of the defeated. They bore witness to human nature stripped bare, its most ravenous hunger for dominance, its most trembling vulnerability in the face of absolute power. Their shadows have long dissolved into the dust of these opulent corridors, their names erased by the very silence they embodied. Yet, the echo of their vigilance, their forbidden knowledge, still pulses within these stones. It reverberates in the rustle of expensive silk, in the hushed whispers of forgotten queens whose ambitions once shook this dynasty, in the chilling certainty of a power held, then irrevocably lost. And now you stand here. You breathe the air they breathed. And with every passing moment, you too begin to hear what no living soul was ever meant to hear. The true cost of this empire. The enduring, deafening power of their silence.